any movement from the Nkuhuma Pride, but for right now we are going absolutely nowhere. We're going to sit with little Xongile, and now Bushwalk is actually heading out to the far ends of Djuma. There they go. You can see James Herbie on the tracker seat. There we go. And who is Batman? And they're heading to Cheetah cut line, because that's where we think we had tracks of Karula. So a good place for Bushwalk to start walking. Now, I've been waiting quite a while for this, and I wish I could take credit for it. But actually, no, I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I use it. I'm going to wait till Bushwalk's on foot. Exciting. There we go. Little Xongololo, you are staring forlornly at those Egyptian geese. So we can't see if she's managed to catch something just yet, and I know everyone's probably just as excited as VM and I are to see her. And I want to see when she stands up how hungry she is. Hopefully she's managed to munch on some Terripans, some scrub hares, and she's not too hungry. Now, it was VM and I actually very close to here yesterday morning, or could have been the evening before. We saw a really skinny old female impala. Now, hopefully that impala hasn't wandered too far, and Xongile will manage to make a meal out of it. And I think she's skinny because she's old, and it's probably her last hurrah. And wouldn't it be nice if her last hurrah kept our wonderful little princess well fed? I'm just keeping quiet for a second, listening to the different sounds. Leopard! 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 I see a leopard! I see a leopard! Oh no, that wasn't for the leopard, that was for a potential threat. Another Egyptian goose coming in to their patch of water. Now, Egyptian geese can actually fight quite aggressively, and I actually thought they were displaying at Xongile there, but then at the last second I saw the other Egyptian goose come in. It's obviously the shouting worked, because the other Egyptian goose didn't land, it flew off. Well, at least it's raised Xongile's head. Now she's waiting here, and I'm hoping that maybe an impala or a duiker or something small that Xongile will be able to catch will be on its way down to the waterhole or to the short grass area around here. Now, as I said, we're not going to move a muscle. We're going to stay right here with the Princess of Djuma. While we do that, let's go see how Jamie's morning is going.
A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. My name is Jamie, and this morning Senzo is on camera with me, and you've already had such an exciting start to your morning with Brent finding Xongile on Twin Dam's dam wall. So very exciting stuff. We're just about to go into the hyena den, because fingers crossed, finally, I'm going to have a chance to see those little hyena cubs. Now, it's drizzling a little bit, so you'll notice that we have our roof on, just to make sure that the equipment doesn't get too wet. When it's raining like this, one of us has to go out with the roof, just in case the rain gets a little bit harder. There's a spider web. This is the time of year of the interpretive dance movements, to remove all the spider webs from in front of the camera lens. I just want to check one thing, because as I came through this little dip, I noticed a very interesting smell, and it almost smells like wild dog, and I just want to check to see if there's any tracks popping out. You never know. It's the one animal that we can actually, as human beings, not follow by scent, but at least pick up upon the presence of. I just want to check and see if there's any tracks. I don't see any. It was a waterbuck. I think I got overexcited, smelled something funny, but there's definitely waterbuck tracks, so it must have been the waterbuck. And generally speaking, as human beings, we're not particularly good with our sense of smell, but the two smelliest animals, waterbuck and wild dog, we can pick up long after they've moved out of that area. Okay, without any further ado, let's see if this morning's the morning that I'm going to see these hyena cubs again. Because every time I've paid a visit, they've been absent. One of them certainly, and I suspect it's Ribbon, don't know for certain. Somebody came into our camp last night and decided to remove the dustbin, carry it around a little bit, drag it around a little bit, probably have a little nibble on some of the chairs as well. It's just what hyenas like to do. The good news is there's fresh tracks, more than one set of tracks of hyenas going straight towards the den, so please let this be the morning that I get to see them. I've seen the screenshots and they look as though they've grown so much. And apparently they're getting brave and coming up to the wheels. Here we go, just shifting the vehicle into low range so that when we do go in, we don't make too much of a noise. Particularly in this particular vehicle. Don't forget to send through your questions using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Kirsty, is the stream back up on YouTube or is it still just on Ustream? Negative. Apparently it's just Ustream, those of you watching. So for those of you that have managed to transfer yourself from the YouTube stream to this stream, well done and thank you, and we do apologize for the problems that we've been experiencing. I'm tempted to say it's the weather, although I don't quite know how that would work, with one stream being up and one not. Oh no, you must be joking. Fresh tracks everywhere, and she's still not home. Aww. I don't understand. I was so excited to see them. Every time everybody else goes, she's here. Okay. And whenever I pay a visit, she's not. My spotted creatures obviously don't want to welcome me back from leave, but luckily for you, Brent has got a different one, so let's go back to the beautiful Xongile. I was so excited to see them.
Well, she's moved off the dam wall. She's come down to this little
creatures obviously
pan
don't
behind
want
the
to welcome
dam,
me back from
and I
leave,
think
but
she's in
luckily
search
for you,
of Terripans.
Brent has got a different one, so let's go back to the beautiful Xongile.
Well, she's moved off the dam wall. She's come down to this little pan behind our tech
the
team
dam,
has managed to
and I
fix
think she's
YouTube.
in
So a
search
big
of
welcome to everyone
Terripans.
on YouTube. Sorry about the delay this morning. As you can see, we're with the exquisitely beautiful one. Sorry about the delay this morning. As you can see, we're with the exquisitely beautiful one, Xongile. And she's quite hungry, but it's amazing how young leopards survive when they are left alone from their moms. They will eat grasshoppers, they will eat terrapins, tortoises, any little bit of sustenance to survive. Scrub hares, bushveld, gerbils, tiny fat mice, cane rats, all sorts of rodents. And it's what she'll be surviving off at the moment. Oh, you're so pretty! Hi, James. James is wondering what would be the largest prey Xongile is going to be able to hoist up a tree. Well, James, at the moment, at her age and her size, probably nothing more than sort of a, maybe not even an adult duiker might be right at the limit of her range. Now, you can hear another vehicle. Rexon's come to join us. So she's moving around the edge there. Look how flat her ears are, and she is moving very slowly, hoping to find a meal on the edge of this pan. You can see she's looking very carefully. Now, I saw some of the footage from when Jamie was with her, and she definitely looks like she's maybe eaten a little bit since then. She is still very hungry, but it's very good practice for her to learn how to survive. Oh, she is so pretty. There we go. Now, this is often when leopards master the art of stalking. In this period, when they're left alone for a long time, when they're quite young, and they're forced to fend for themselves. Hello, pretty girl. She's looking into the shallows and into the long grass. Now, unfortunately for her, this cold morning means the terrapins are probably not too many of them around the edge. I definitely think that's what she's looking for. Now, there are some white-faced ducks in this pan as well, and I wonder if they've got some young ones. That would be an excellent meal for a young leopard. Now, while she's perusing the pan, we're going to go say a good morning to the bushwalk team, and I've been waiting to say this for quite some time. We are going to go to Bond and Batman.
Yes, Bond and Batman it is here on Bushwalk. We're walking Cheetah cut line, the eastern fringes of where we're allowed to be. My name is not in fact Bond, it is James Hendry, and on camera is Batman. Yes, he really is Batman on camera today. Herbert is just up front, and the reason we're in this area is that we're hoping to try and find some tracks of Karula, mother of Xongile and Hosanna, and well, this is where we had tracks of a leopard who killed something and pulled it across the road into Torchwood, which is the reserve to the east of us, into which we are not allowed to go. But if it is Karula, it is quite possible that she will come back this way. Whoops, there's a hole there. The reason that I have my hands in my pockets, of course, is because it's a little bit cold this morning. Apparently 23 degrees. Yes, maybe, but there's a quite chilly wind blowing to my back. We are as live as Brent and Jamie, which means you must please talk to us. #SafariLive is the best way to do that. And you can ask us anything you like, really. About walking, perhaps, about Africa, about coming to Africa, about South Africa, about the wilderness in general, perhaps. Anything you like. Now, let us stop for our first piece of biology. Batman, over here we have a caterpillar. I suspect quite strongly one of the Acrea species. There it is, and I think that it is in the process of forming a chrysalis. In other words, I think it's probably... No, you know what I think's happened to it? It's either formed a chrysalis or it's been murdered. Here is the murderer. You see it, Craig? That is the murderer. A spider. Now, this is quite interesting because the reason I think it may have formed a chrysalis is that it is attached, of course, to the branch of this Vernonia flower, and it may be going into a sort of pupal stage. Maybe it's just in the early stages of forming its chrysalis. That's possible. Although it looks a bit like a husk to me. I'm not sure that there's actually any inside left in here. Not sure. Anyway, we'll leave that to allow it to be okay. That was a biting fly trying to do what the spider is trying to do. And then there's another spider here. This is an orb-web spider. The other one looks a bit like a crab spider of some sort. This is an orb-web spider. It's made a web here, and in it has caught what landed in my coffee this morning, a moth. And it is devouring the moth. Where I had coffee this morning, this orb-web spider is having a moth for breakfast. Yum, yum, yum. How delicious. Moth insides. Would you like moth insides for breakfast, Batman?
Not this morning, I don't think.
No, Batman says he doesn't want to have moth insides for breakfast this morning. He's very unadventurous in the way he eats. I don't blame him. I'm extremely unadventurous in the way I eat since my return from India as well. Let us carry on. We haven't found any tracks yet. We've also now lost Herbert, of course. Herbert is a man who likes to find tracks on the ground and do action. But let me show you how we find him. Normally he will then give the... Unfortunately, he's too far in front. Anyway, consulting detective, you're wondering if the cooler weather is going to bring out frogs. Well, interestingly enough, I nearly ran over a frog on the way here. We drove to this area this morning, that's why we started slightly late. And the type of frog it was a... You're right there, Batman. It was a bush-filled rain frog female. I wouldn't have thought cooler weather would necessarily bring the frogs out. It's normally moisture that brings them out, moisture and heat, because of course they are poikilothermic or ectothermic, which means that they need heat in their surroundings in order to function properly. So no, I don't think it's the coolth. I think it might be the moisture, though, that's bringing them out. We've had two sightings of frogs in the last little while. We had the bushveld rain frog this morning, and then 2 afternoons ago when I was on walk, we had a little sort of patch of sandy drainage line where the elephants had been digging, and in that there were a whole lot of ornate frogs, beautiful frogs with lime green stripes on them, and also another bushveld rain frog. So yes, maybe we'll find some frogs. It seems to be their sort of last hurrah before the dry sets in and they have to go into estivation. Let's see what else we can find through here. Well, here is a really nice example of the Vernonia flower. Oh, sorry, can we quickly do this one, Kirsten? Is that all right? Because there is another crab spider on the top of the Vernonia flower. Now remember how we've spent a lot of time looking at the Waltheria flowers because they have been deliverers of crab spiders and caterpillars and ants and all sorts of things. And now that these Vernonias have come out, every time I stop at one, there does seem to be a spider or something making a living. Good. Let's head across to Jamie. I'm not sure what's happening with her plans for the morning, but I've no doubt she will tell you in her very eloquent fashion now.
I'm not sure how elegantly I can tell you about my plans, but I can tell you relatively simply that my plan this morning is to go and look for the Nkuhumas. Since the spotted hyenas don't want to be seen by me this morning, or in fact over the last few days, we're going to go and search for the Nkuhumas instead. I know Brent mentioned, and many of you will know, they were seen on the Arathusa dam camera at 11 o'clock or around 11 o'clock last night, which means they could well still be in the area. I want to see whether or not they've either crossed onto Djuma or are still around and about Arathusa itself. My goodness, look at all the terrapins near the surface of the water, all gathered together. It's a relative bounty for poor little Xongile, who has been relying upon a terrapin diet. Look at that. Lots and lots of them all coming up for air, and obviously to catch, I assume, to catch insects or larvae that must be around there. They are carnivorous, so they eat things like tadpoles, water insects, mollusks, freshwater snails, anything like that. I'm amazed to see them all gathered together. There's loads of them there. There must be about 20 terrapins all gathered in this particular part of the dam. So there must be something there. Tadpoles, perhaps? I know James was talking about frogs. Might be some late tadpoles. Mosquito larvae. In which case, eat away, little terrapins, eat away. Eat as much as you can. The tops of their heads and the tips of their shells poking out as they move around. I can see lots of little bugs flying over the surface of the water. Muggies, as we'd call them here. It's a sort of colloquial South African word for small unidentified flying insect that is not a mosquito. Muggie. them all. Loads of them. It's quite random. I wonder what it is that's attracted them there. Perhaps the rain, because it is drizzling. You can see every now and again you'll see the raindrops on the surface of the water. It is raining. I wonder whether the rain hasn't caused insects to land on there. It's interesting. I don't know. Of course, if it is tadpoles, I completely missed International Frog Day. I was on leave. But for those of you that would like to see some hilarious videos of our staff doing frog call impressions, you should definitely, after the safari is finished, have a look at our Facebook page and have a look at all of the various staff members doing their best or worst frog imitations. Well, since there's not much happening at Treehouse Dam, let's go all the way back across to Twin Dams, where Brent is with Xongile.
Oh, she's slowly moving around the edge. Oh, she's seen something. I think she's seen there's some white-faced whistling ducks that are hiding in the grass, and I said, I think they might have babies here. So, the white-faced whistling ducks, the last place I saw them was in there. So she's moved around to where it's quite thick. Now that would be a really good meal for her at the moment. And we're not going to be able to see her now, but we can't really move. We're just going to have to wait to see what happens. So she's going to try use these thickets here and just slowly try and make her way. I think the ducks are just behind there. This is very exciting. Come on, Xongile. I'm trying to see if I can spot her through the thickets. I can't at the moment. But you see how her whole body posture changed in a split second. There she is. She's right where the ducks are. Now the ducks are in that long grass somewhere, and she might just leap into the water. Fingers crossed that she's going to be successful. Come on, catch a duck. I can't see the ducks at the moment. I'm trying to see if any of the grass around her is moving, where a duck might be just trying to push its way through the grass. Look at that concentration on her face. Oh. Now, we're going to be watching. Watch her body carefully. See if she starts building latent energy, coiling those muscles to make a leap. Come on, Xongile. Any little meal will help, even if it is the tiniest little grasshopper, will be providing protein for her. Come on, Xongile. Leap. Leap, leap. Now, she's displaying probably one of the most important hunting traits that any animal can have if you're a predator, and that's patience. Because if you jump at the wrong time, now, I wonder where that duck has gone. There was a couple of them. Project Mist is wondering how many meals do a leopard eat in a day. Well, there's no fixed rule and no set rule, and it all depends. At the moment, she's very hungry. She might have many small meals: grasshoppers, termites, frogs, mice, birds, terrapins, turtles, and tortoises. But normally, an adult leopard will eat every 3 to 4 days. And 3 to 4 days, and normally an impala or a duiker or a steenbok or some other creature like that. But she's quite inexperienced. Her mom's only recently abandoned her, so she hasn't quite mastered the art of hunting yet, and she's also a bit small for certain species. So I think she's too small at the moment to take down an adult impala, for example. Now, her brother, who's the same age, but being a male, is physically already much, much bigger than her, and he's probably capable of taking down an adult impala already. But so on average, they eat every 3 or 4 days. As I said, at the moment, she's probably eating multiple small meals every day just to survive. So patience, patience, patience. Waiting for the duck to move one foul paddle. Now, she's displaying patience, and I think it doesn't look like she's about to leap. I'm not seeing the muscles coil. I'm not seeing her get ready for a spring. She is quite focused, but James has got something that might slither away.
Indeed, a slithering creature that eats something that will make people have even more heebie-jeebies than perhaps this animal will give you. This is a centipede eater, and it eats... Batman, what does it eat? Centipedes. That is correct, well done. And of course, for me, a centipede is quite possibly the most creepy of the crawlies there is out here. They're the things that give me the least pleasure to look at. But a snake like this, although I know a lot of people might get a little bit sort of nervous by a snake, I just think it's beautiful to watch. Look at its little tongue sticking out. I just wanted to try and keep it on the road there, but I don't think it's... Yeah, there it's gone now. You know, it sat here probably for about 10 minutes, and we said, no, don't worry to hurry to come over here. It's very chilled, it's fine. Of course, as soon as it gets onto camera, it becomes quite nervous. Anyway, that was the centipede eater. And then there was something else over here that I wanted to show you, because Rebecca had said the other day that she had never smelt one, and I wanted to show again its existence. And it was a stink bug, and unfortunately I rather think that I've frightened it, which means it's probably going to stink on my arm somewhere, because I think I may have put my arm onto it. Oh, how disgusting. Anyway, while we think about where the stink bug is, let's head straight back across to the stalking little Xongile.
Well, we've managed to spot the white-faced duck. Unfortunately, I think it's a little bit too deep in the pan for Xongile to get to. VM actually spotted. There's 2 of them. There's the one. Keeping very still and hiding in the long grass. And the other one is out in the open, well too far for Xongile to get to it. But as I said, they might have chicks. Now the chicks are quite small and they'll hang normally closer to the edges, but it looks like she is staring at the one that's probably 3 or 4 meters into the pan, which could be just a little bit too far for her. Justin's wondering how far and how high can a leopard jump. Well, I've seen a leopard probably do 12 feet up and about 15 feet not vertically, parallel, so they can jump very high and very far when they need to. And the time when you see leopards doing the most spectacular jumps is generally on two occasions. One, when they're hunting birds, especially guinea fowl and francolin. They can leap very high to take those birds as they take off. And the second is when they're trying to leap away from a potential threat like lions or hyenas, or wild dogs for that matter. Sorry, Xongile, that duck's just too far for you. So obviously it moved deeper in as she was sneaking around the edge. I think it probably spotted her. Of course, being a leopard and being an opportunist, she might find a terrapin while she's waiting patiently for a chance at that white-faced duck. Well, morning, Soraya, who's in New Jersey. Soraya would like to know, is a terrapin difficult for Xongile to ingest? I wouldn't say it's the meat's not difficult for her to ingest. The only problem is she only gets to eat very small pieces of it unless it's a tiny terrapin. The shell will be too hard for her to break open, so she'll probably only be able to eat the head, legs, and not get too much meat from it. But every little bit counts when the game is survival. And she's being very, very patient. Oh, it sounds like a red-backed shrike has found her. You can just hear that chip, 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 alarming at her. And she might have seen something else now. But there's not that key focus we saw earlier. She almost looks quite despondent. Colleen's wondering, can she not smell the duck in the grass? Probably not. I think she can definitely see the duck in the grass, or see the movement of the duck. But as I said, the water's quite deep. I don't think she'll be able to make that in one pounce. 3 meters, what's that, 12, 14 feet? And she's a bit young to make that distance, and even then the duck can take off and disappear quite quickly, and ducks have another very, very good defensive strategy, is they can also dive under the water. So I think the chances of her being able to get to the duck in time to have a decent chance at successfully catching it are very, very slim. I think she knows that as well. That's why that you saw that laser focus she had earlier is now gone, and she's doing what she was doing on the other side of the pan, just sitting, waiting, hoping for a terrapin or something else to come a little bit closer. Now, when leopards sit patiently in an area, sometimes it's not what they're focused on that they catch, it's something else that might meander in, wander through. You never know, some francolins might be heading down to feed on the nice grass seeds around the edge of the pan, and she might get luck there. Also around these pans, there's lots of different rodent species. We've even got aquatic rodent species called cane rats, and that will be a very favorite food. We actually saw Xongile catch a few cane rats many moons ago. But we're going to sit here, play the patience game with Xongile. Fingers crossed she gets successful. But while we do that, let's see if James has managed to find any sign of her mom on Cheetah Cutline.
I have not managed to find any signs of her mother, but that wouldn't be surprising. More importantly, Herbert has also failed to find any signs of her mother, so whoever that leopard is who killed and dragged whatever it killed into Torchwood, she's probably still there and still devouring it. Anyway, our plan from here is to continue all the way up the Cheetah cut line. We're going to head towards Biffleshoek Dam, see what we can find there, and then make a plan from thence. And, well, who knows what we'll find. At the moment, no mammals, very few birds on account of the weather. But the insects and arachnids are out. And there is another spider. It is so small that I wonder if we won't require the microscope to look at it. Craig, it's just on the end of this grass stalk. Can you see there? It is 1 millimeter in length. You see it there? There it goes. It's going up its little web. Now that tiny little spider, everybody, is an orb-web spider, so it's in the same family as a golden orb-web spider, a garden orb-web spider, all those massive orb-web spiders, a bark spider. Only one family of spiders makes the orb-web. Oh, I think I breathed a little bit hard. It dropped down. Here it is. That is so cool. Julia, you want to know what the prettiest spider in Africa is? Well, Julia, funny you should ask that. It is my humble opinion that the garden orb-web spider is the prettiest spider in all of Africa. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's in all of Africa, but certainly that we get here. So I will show it to you. If you'd like. Would you like to see it? I'm sure you would. I took a picture of one the other day. It was illegal, of course, but I didn't mind. I'm so gangster, aren't I, Batman? Say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there we are.
Need a flat cap.
I need a flat cap like yours so I can balance my coffee on it. 1 second, everyone. I also did a time lapse yesterday, which means I have 7,000 completely hopeless pictures. There we go. Here we go. Here comes the spider. Huh? There we go. That's the garden orb-web spider, Julia. And I think that's a rather spectacular spider. Beautiful grey and gold and yellow. I think many people find the sight of its sort of more fancied or more popular cousin, the golden orb-web spider, slightly more intimidating. It looks it looks quite toxic, given the orange and red colours that it has, and it doesn't have quite the same shape. Oh, jeepers! I'm being savaged by flies. So that's, I think, Julia, the most beautiful spider. I'm not sure if it's the most beautiful spider in all of Africa, but in our area here, I think it certainly qualifies as one of the most beautiful. Now, our plan, I guess, will just be now to hopefully find some tracks, and if we can't, well, then we're going to just find little things as we have been doing. I used a split infinitive there. Did you hear that, Craig? Is that why you shuddered slightly? I'm sorry about that. I mean, hopefully to find, not too hopefully find. Dreadful, dreadful. My mother would be scandalized. Okay. Let us look at Pogonathra squarosa, the herringbone grass. Sorry, the what? The whattiest spider? Biggest spider. Okay, I will talk about the largest spider now. This herringbone grass is interesting because, of course, it's inedible just about to all animals, but it grows in sort of disturbed areas. And what we have here, we're on pretty much a fire break that runs along the Cheetah cut line, and so you'd find grasses like this. It would not be unusual. If you found only this grass wherever you happen to have a piece of land, you would immediately assume that you had something wrong with your rangeland and that you needed to do something about it, because this is an indicator of ill health if it's in too greatest numbers. The biggest spider that we get out here, well, I guess it probably is the golden orb-web spider. I mean, they get to about that large. So what's that? That's about 8 inches long, I think. Some baboon spiders almost that size, but the sort of longest must be some really big golden orb-web spiders. They'd be about that size, I guess. Oh, no, I'm talking rubbish. The biggest spider we get is a rain spider, and a rain spider will be roughly the same size as my hand. They look absolutely terrifying, and you'll find them sitting on your wall at night time. You know, you'll wake up sort of lazily, switch the light on, and there will be this thing staring down at you, the size of your hand, hairy, and it has definitely resulted in many very bad words, people shooting out of their beds and banging their heads, and a lot of screaming and squealing, certainly in my family, but they're totally harmless. And they're called rain spiders because normally you'll find them coming inside during the rain. So they are the biggest spiders. Of course, the biggest spider in the world is the Goliath bird-eating spider, as far as I'm aware, and that lives mercifully in South America and not here. I think any spider capable of devouring a bird must be an absolutely terrifying experience to find. All right, Jamie Patterson has headed off to the far west. She is in search of the great Nkuhuma pride. Let us find out if she is close or not.
I'm not close just yet, but the good news is the Nkuhumas have been found, and we will, fingers crossed, be making our way towards them at some point. Obviously, there's lots of people that want to see them, so we're going to slowly but surely make our way there. And for our new viewers, basically what that means is we never overpressure the animal when it comes to the number of vehicles around. Hold on a second, I can hear. Now's a good time to stop. No, I can't hear. Alright, it was worth a try. I'll just have to try and get a little bit closer. Okay, this is the perfect ridge. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. I'll wait. I'll wait my turn. Let's go and see what else we can find while we not waste a bit of time, but just pass the time until we can go into the lion sighting. Let me turn that down. Now, I hear you were talking about spiders with James. We're currently not fighting a war, but we're all being very, very careful around the parking bays where we leave the vehicles each and every night. And the reason for that is the brown recluse spiders, or the brown button spiders, have moved in, and they've decided that that's where they want to be. And there are lots of them wandering around. Now, of course, that's one of our more venomous types of spider. They're not particularly aggressive, and they generally don't bite unless you really provoke them. But obviously, that's not something we want to take a chance with. So every time we can, we catch them and remove them. And every time we do that, there's more. Obviously, there's been one very prolific female that has been laying lots and lots of eggs. Thank you. Sorry about that. How are you? Good, thanks. Hi, guys. Do you know what the standbys are like for the Xongile? Okay. I'll wait till I get a bit closer so I can hear, and then I'll find out. Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much, Laz. Cheers, guys. Sorry, Kirsty, what were we talking about? I have no idea. Now, Julia, you would like to know which of our spiders is considered to be a common house spider. In Johannesburg, rain spiders are very common, and of course that inspires great fear in people. I know you were talking about arachnophobia with James. A rain spider is a big spider, and it's big and furry looking, and it looks terrifying. It's completely harmless, but they very, very commonly go into houses. Button spiders as well, both black and brown, so the most venomous type of spider that we get. Sack spiders, again, one of the more venomous spiders. Bear in mind that the chances of being bitten by these spiders is relatively slim, but unfortunately sack spiders like to make their nests in curtains and clothes, in bed sheets, and that's how people end up with very nasty cytotoxic bites. So bites that go a little bit septic, or a lot septic actually. I had a sack spider bite underneath my armpit once when I was still living in the UK, but I'd come back to visit South Africa. and it resulted in the doctor having to call the Centre for Disease Control. I don't think he actually had to call the Centre for Disease Control, but he wasn't quite fully convinced that it was a spider bite, obviously having not seen the effects of a sac spider before. It did give me a new and valid appreciation for the NHS though, because I had to go each and every single day to have it drained, and it was kind of gross. I won't go into details. But because it was sitting right over my lymph system, I got very, very sick, got septicemia, started hallucinating. It was not pleasant. So sac spiders are probably the most unpleasant, sac and violin spiders, in terms of the effects that they can have. If you're a healthy adult, the bite of a brown button or a black button spider is going to make you feel a bit ill, but it's not likely to put you in hospital. There's occasional cases where people do have a bad reaction. And then of course, daddy longlegs. Now I have to do some chatting on the game drive comms. Apparently I've got a place in the standby queue, so I'll chat to the various people concerned. While I do that, luckily Brent has got a leopard to keep you entertained in the meantime.
Well, see, my prediction was correct, so we've sat here quietly, and I said there might be a bunch of baby whistling ducks didn't fly when Xongile arrived. So there are the little ducklings, and a lot of them I actually think were under the water, and you can hear Mom, beep, beep, come here, come here. So I think that's what Xongile is after, the baby white-faced ducks. How many I can? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I can see. Now, Xongile, as soon as she came here, they've all moved out. We can't actually see her at the moment. She is in that dark thicket. Let's just maybe try a little bit further forward. You see anything, Via? She has disappeared. I don't even know how she's crawling in there. There's so little space. And she's got a... Oh, look, how did she get there? I mean, how did she get there? A little bit forward. Look at that. She is really, really right on the edge in those baby leadwood tree. I'm Madeline in New Mexico. Madeline is wondering, has Karula abandoned Xongile younger than she's abandoned the other cubs? Well, Madeline, when I arrived, her cubs were already quite old, so Kunyuma and Quarantine were already around 2 years old. So I'm not sure whether she's ever done this before. It's not that uncommon once a female leopard's cubs are over a year old for her to start mating again and abandon them. She might come back, we don't know. That's, to be honest. And also, as leopards get older, their behavior sometimes, especially with cubs, becomes more erratic. You might find they have some hormonal changes and things like that. So it's very difficult for us to say. I just wonder, is she going to come out? She's still staring towards the ducks. I'm going to see if we can get a view of her from... because she's going back that way now. Where's she off to? I think she spotted the ducks. I think she's going to try and move around again to where the ducks are. I've lost sight of her again. It is really, really thick in here. Where's she gone? It's amazing, we know there's a leopard right here and she's disappeared. Camouflage is doing its job. Where have you gone, little Xongile? She's somewhere in that, and we can't even really see in there. I was hoping she might pop out on the other side, but I can't see her at the moment. Pug Sanatic is wondering what size animals is Xongile capable of bringing down at this age. I would say, from an antelope point of view, maybe a sub-adult impala, Duiker, Steenbok. I think an adult impala is still a little bit big for her. Where have you gone? Incredible. Now that shows you, I mean, how many times have we probably driven past leopards not even knowing? Let's have another quick look forward. I see her feet. You see there, Vim? There. Let me just, I think that leaf's in your way. And try forward a bit. There we go, there's a tail. There's a tail. Okay, now we're going to stay right here, see how this plays out. The baby ducks are quite far away. I think she's got quite a lot of stalking to do to get there. So while we wait patiently to see what happens next, and she's in the thicket of the thicket, let's go across to James, who's also walking through the bush.
Well, I've stopped walking. I'm now static, and I'm static with a jewel beetle spotted by the great Herbert Corser, who's currently standing behind Craig, grinning like a Cheshire cat on account of the fact that he managed to find this jewel beetle. I said to him, "Herbert, let us stop at this bush. There will be something on it." He said, "Ah, malum loto." In other words, there will be nothing on this bush. And then he cast his great eyes upon it, and there the jewel beetle arrived. Let me move it around to your side. Come on. There. There we go. Now, it's not a very bright jewel beetle. It's not a great representative of its kind, but it's quite interesting. And it's sitting on here a monkey pod tree, or Senna petitiana. And Herbert reckons that this is an edible plant. He's just eaten one of the pods. I've never seen that before. I'm definitely going to try it. I may be sick, so before I'm sick, let's have a look at something else living here. Here's a spider. You see it, Craig? Another orb-web spider. Totally different shape from the garden orb-web or the golden orb or the other little orb-web spiders we found earlier. He's rather a fatty, I think. James, you say there's Xongile names for certain individual spider species. Not as far as I've worked out. I mean, I'm sure there were in prehistory, but you must remember that very few of the local names for animals were based on sort of research. People out here have forever and ever struggled to, well, find enough calories to fill up their bodies, and so the language that they used for nature was seldom to do with research and much more to do with a knowledge of A, what was dangerous, and then B, what was good to eat. So you'd probably find that a spider like this, something is biting my head now, you'd probably find that a spider like this had a name that was very generic to all spiders of similar size that lived in these kinds of habitats, and it would have been based on whether or not they were edible and whether or not they were dangerous. I don't know any of them. Herbert's moved off now. I'll ask him a little bit later when we get closer. Then over here we have some what look to be small assassin bugs. In fact, definitely as small assassin bugs. There we go. a little group of them there. Marvellous stuff. It really is quite fantastic what you find on these plants. And these ones not quite the same red colour that we normally have. Isn't that wonderful? Elizabeth, you're wondering about the difference between a garden and a golden orbweb spider. Well, a garden orbweb is yellowish, like the one I showed you. Oh dear. Excuse me. Normally in the vehicle you can hide that sort of thing, but you can't when you're on walk. Sorry about that, Elizabeth. It's nothing boring to do with your question. And that's so embarrassing. A garden orbweb spider. I'm really being savaged by flies. The garden orbweb you saw, the sort of 2 legs pincered to the front and 2 legs pincered to the back. Very fat yellow abdomen. I hope it doesn't happen again. And then the golden orbweb is a different colour. It's a kind of mottled orange and a little bit of red, yellow and white and black, and much more elongated, the legs much more evenly spread around the body. I don't have a picture with me, I'm afraid, and there have been very few this year, more than there were last year, but still quite few. We'll try and find you one. They're also a bit bigger, and they're just not quite as attractive, I don't think. I think they look a bit more creepy, if you like. Now, this is what Herbert ate. Do you want to try one, Craig? Yeah?
I'll wait for you to.
You'll wait for me to try one, will you? That is as bitter as gall. Maybe I had a not very ripe one. Really, it was quite disgusting. Here we go, let's try this one. I'm just going to take a very... No, it's horrible. It's called Senna petitiana, or the monkey pod. And I mean, I've never even thought about eating them because the leaves are smelly. They don't have a nice aroma to them at all. So I've just assumed that everything about the plant would smell but would taste bad, and certainly that would seem to be the case. It's not even peppery, you know. It's just disgusting. It's just bad. I'll have to talk to Herbert about that. Castigate him thoroughly for well, he'd probably tricked me into doing it. He probably spat his out immediately on eating it. Alright, so that is this Senna petitiana plant with all its life. 2 different kinds of spiders, assassin bugs, jewel beetle. Here's the jewel beetle again. He's now actually come quite nicely out into the open. Well, he was in the open for you that side, Craig, not this side. There he is there. In fact, I've spotted another 2 spiders, and I bet if you were to do what they call gassing this tree. Now, obviously, we're not going to do that, but how you discover what's in a tree is that you put a net, or you don't put a net over it. What you do is you put a net underneath it, so you clear underneath it, and then you send a noxious gas into the tree, and any invertebrates living in it would then fall out onto the net, and you could then count them and find out what was going on. We won't do that because we're not nasty scientists. Here's another bug, hang on. This one is really quite pretty. I think it might be another assassin. It is an assassin. Look at that. No, is it an assassin? No, it's not. Isn't that nice? D, you're saying, why do they call that spider an assassin spider? It's not an assassin spider. There's the orb-web spider, and then there's the assassin bug. And the assassin bug is an insect. It's not a spider. And what it does is it drills into you. It will insert its proboscis into you, and then inject a very powerful cocktail of enzymes, which, if you happen to be the insect prey that it wants to eat, will liquefy the insides. And if you happen to be a human being from which it wishes to defend itself, it'll just be very painful indeed. So that's why it's called an assassin bug. It's because of its method of killing. Now, our spider has moved from its web, and I was rather hoping we'd be able to toss a fly into it and induce it to come and kill. I really feel no sympathy for flies whatsoever, so if I can attract one to my person, I might throw it onto the web. No, I don't seem to be able to find a fly. Suddenly you look... No, here's one. Here we go. Wait 1 second. No, they're a bit wily, these things. Never mind. We'll have to try something else. Okay, let's keep going. We haven't reached Buffelshoek Dam yet. We're still heading north up parallel with the Cheetah cut line. It's a very pleasant walk. The coolth of the morning has turned into a rather nice temperature. And I believe Jamie is still waiting in a queue to get into the lion sighting, so let's find out how long that queue still is.
Luckily the queue is very, very short, and we should be going in to those lines in the next sort of 5 or so minutes. Unfortunately, it is right in the corner of Arathusa, where our signal is notoriously a bit shaky. So for now, I'm just going to sit here and wait. I don't want to move around too much when we make our way in, and then we'll wait until we're actually static in the sighting. It should be perfect. Now, you cheeky little things. I thought, well, since we're here, I'll try and show you some dwarf mongoose. They're all around us, but they all ran across the road behind me. That's why I'm laughing. But let me try and see. I won't go too far back into this dip. Let me try and see if we can get them on camera while we wait. So from our smallest carnivore to our biggest is my plan this morning. They've all run in here, Senzo. Maybe we can have a look and see. Perhaps one of them will pop out. Let's see which of us can spot one first. They're naturally curious animals. So by making sort of generic... There goes one. Generic contact calls, you sometimes get them to pop out. He's just dashed under there. Let's see if we can get it to... Oh, I see you, you horrible little creatures. You keep ducking out of view. Naturally, some families are just a little bit more relaxed than others. Usually the families of dwarf mongoose that are on a main road. Okay, this isn't working. Oh, I just feel stupid. Okay, fine. Obviously don't want to be on camera this morning. It would have been such a nice... Okay. It would have been such a nice sort of from the smallest carnivore to the biggest one that we get out here, but unfortunately it is not to be. I just want to chat ever so quickly. Stations, can I make my way to the Xongile lock? Okay, while I chat a little bit, let us head over to James.
Look how utterly, spectacularly beautiful this creature is. It is an iridescent sort of starling purple green with orange underneath, and Herbert found it. I don't know what it's called. I've seen it in the book. Isn't it wonderful? It's a little beetle, as far as I'm aware. And it's got sort of iridescent turquoise parts to the leg and iridescent stripe underneath the purple. And it was living, typically, on the Waltheria bush, which of course is a great deliverer of wonderful things. And I'm sorry that it is sitting in amongst the hairs on my hand, which are inescapably unattractive, but it's a really good way of hampering the thing's movement. So it just struggles to move around when it's in amongst all that hair. Otherwise they just scuttle around too much. Now, take care, you say, is it possible to tell the difference in bug sexes? Now, I don't know if you mean bug in the biological term, so from the order Hemiptera, or if you mean creepy crawlies in general. If you mean in general, yes, some. Certainly amongst the spiders, obviously many of the males are smaller than the females, so that's easy. Amongst the things like fireflies, the males are often flightless and the females can, no, other way around, males can often fly, females often can't, and that's the same with the mantis species. It can be the same with a few of the stick insect species as well. But something like dung beetles, very difficult. In fact, I think just about all the beetles, you'll struggle to tell the difference. So it really does depend on what kind of creepy crawly you're talking about. In terms of the biological bugs, so the order Hemiptera, of which this is not one, I don't think. I think this is a coleoptrid or a beetle. I think you'll find it's quite difficult to tell the difference between different sex bugs. As far as I'm aware, I can't think of one where it's obvious. That's special. And like I say, I do apologise for the arm hairs, but really we wouldn't be having a view like this were it not for my gorilla-like covering of fur. I didn't know what it was called. I've definitely seen it in the book, but I don't know what it's called. And Craig said, I think it's a rainbow, what do you call it? A rainbow spotted beetle. And I actually think it is called something like that. It's not quite that, but it's somewhere quite close. So I don't know, some of you seem to be brilliant at finding these things on the internet. Perhaps you can find out for us what it's called. Gorgeous. We'll put it back on its Waltheria plant. Yeah, miniature mongoose, you say, is it not a jewel beetle? It's pretty enough. I don't think it is a jewel beetle, no. No, I think it's a different kind of beetle. It's just a different shape. It might be. But I don't think so, miniature mongoose. That's where it was found. I think that's just gorgeous, and you can see its underside now. Wonderful sort of orange colour. And you can't imagine how an insect like this could survive when it is so obvious. It is so clearly coloured in a non-camouflaged way. There we go. Julia, you're right. It's exactly what it is. So it is a hemipterid. It's not a beetle. It's a rainbow shield bug. You're absolutely right. I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. So it's not a beetle, it's a bug. It's a rainbow shield bug. I think you're correct. That sounds really familiar. And I've forgotten, of course, how you tell on sight the difference between a bug and a beetle, but there are ways, of course. There are ways and means. So that's very nice. Then over here, also a shield bug, but this one much more a stink bug than a, one that I'm going to put on my hand. That thing will make your hand smell like rancid coriander if it gets on to your hand. And you shake it around enough and you threaten it. And there are lots and lots of those. And I remember as a child being, I have an extremely sensitive nose, so I was enormously put off, firstly by the smell, and before I became sort of, an amateur naturalist, if you like, I was so terrified of these creepy crawly things, especially if they smelled bad, and this was the terror of my Johannesburg nights. Ooh. They don't smell so fly. Alright, I believe that Brent Leo Smith has got another wonderful view of Xongile, so let's head straight across to him.
Well, we've got a view, and she's been in and out of those thickets watching the white-faced whistling duck family with deathly intent. So I don't think she's in the best spot now. I think she's a bit open, even though if the ducks move towards her, it's going to be quite easy for them to evade her. Now the ducks just moved. There we go. There's one. They're definitely aware of her presence. And those little ones all dive under the water. And sometimes if you look carefully, they'll actually be right up under the adult's wings. Xongile's still got that focus, playing the patience game with the whistling ducks. Now, as it warms up, she might get a chance at a terrapin or two as well, as they move towards the edges of the pan. Of course, they're so cumbersome on land, but the terrapin is still an incredibly agile creature in its preferred natural habitat of water. Now, I've heard over the radio that Tingana is to the south of us here, not too far away. They've just lost him. We could hear him calling a little bit earlier. You can hear that. If you hear that tweet, 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 that is the whistling ducks calling to the babies. Now, Philippa is wondering if Xongile ever came across a carcass, an animal that might have died from a cold snap, natural causes, or from another leopard, and that animal isn't there, or the predator isn't there. Would she ever scavenge? Most definitely. Leopards are not beyond scavenging at all. I've even seen them scavenge off elephant carcasses before. Okay, yeah, that white-faced listening duck. Children, come here, come here, come here, come here. There's a leopard, come here now. It almost sounds like a stern mom's voice. George, you the naughty one. George. Julianne's wondering if she's been actively calling for Karula at all. She hasn't, and it would be ill-advised to do so because she would announce her presence in the area, and that might attract some unwanted attention from males or from potentially another female. Now, what she's probably surviving off the most at the moment is there's one right next to us here. Where did it go? Oh no, I've lost sight of it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so let me just have a look where we are. Oh, there he is. You see him moving, a little grasshopper. You got him. Just come wider a little bit. Okay, he's, I think, where... Oh, there you got him. Liam's got him. There we go. So even though that looks absolutely tiny, grasshoppers are very high in protein, and I've seen leopards that are struggling a little bit. They will feed off those grasshoppers. Now, of course, they've got to eat quite a few of them. Now, if any of you know anything about human survival, that's definitely something that we would eat if we had to survive as well. So leopards are great at adapting to certain circumstances. So I'm pretty sure she's been surviving quite a lot of various insects. Julia is wondering, are leopards able to mimic their prey? No, they're not. They are ambush predators. They rely on camouflage, stealth, and patience to catch their prey. They are unable to mimic, unfortunately. The clouds breaking up a little bit, a bit of sunlight coming through. Now, I'm hoping that Mr. Tingana keeps heading north. He might cross into Djuma, but at the moment they've lost him in a thick area. So we're also listening out to see if he starts rasping again. There we go. So she's still really, really focused on the ducks. Mark's asked me a very difficult question. He says, what is the most beautiful leopard you've ever seen? Well, Mark, all leopards are beautiful to some degree, but I would say the most beautiful leopard I've ever seen is a toss-up between two. One's name was Vomba, and the other's name was Shidulu. Now, they were leopards that used to live on the Sand River, although I have seen some very, very pretty young male leopards in Kruger. I think it's too impossible to say which is the most beautiful leopard I've ever seen. I'm one of those lucky people who've seen a lot of leopards. So, I said, all leopards are beautiful, and if I had to do a toss-up, it would definitely be one of those Sand River females. So it's quite interesting. In the Sabi Sands, you've got two very distinct lineages in terms of coloration. You've got your pale leopards. Oh, where's she off to now? Back into that thicket. Your pale leopards like Karula, Shadow, Tundi. Oh, and she's off into the thicket. We're going to move around. And then you've got your darker females. Salahesh and Inkanyeni. So it's all up to personal preference. I know a lot of people who prefer the paler leopards. Myself, I prefer the dark ones, almost jaguar coloration. So very, very dark leopards tend to be my more favored type of leopard. And if we're talking beauty in leopards, it's always going to be a female who's the most beautiful. The males have that massive power, but that dewlap and fat head are not quite exquisitely beautiful. So the females and their very sleek lines and dainty appearance are generally, in my opinion, you're more than welcome to disagree with me, the more beautiful of the sexes when it comes to leopards. Now, with lions, you'd probably say it's the opposite, because the males with their massive manes are probably considered to be the more beautiful, or definitely the more impressive of the sexes with lions. There, VMC, there we go. I said everything's up to your opinion. VM disagrees. He's like, no. Lionesses are much more pretty than males. I don't know, maybe it's something about the raw power of a male that excites me. Now, I'm going to try park on the opposite side. I think we're going to might be able to get a view of her from there, because she's gone right into those thickets again. So while we do that, it seems like James is having all the amphibian luck. I wonder what frog he's found this time.
All the amphibian luck was the only piece of amphibian luck we've had today, and it's not very lucky. Of course, some of you will be looking at this thinking, we've been told that they're not allowed to hold frogs, and look at this man, look what he's doing, he's picked up a frog, the oils of his hands are going to get into it and it's going to cause damage, and you'd be absolutely correct. This frog, I'm afraid, is no longer. Although, as I say that, no, it is no longer. It's dead. And so we won't do it any further harm by holding it. And it is a bushveld rain frog, a female bushveld rain frog. She's got a blood nose, unfortunately. I'm not sure what fate befell her, but she died sometime last night. And I've got to tell you, for her to have got this far, for it to have got this far in life is quite impressive, because I've got to tell you, I mean, just think about how many thousands of eggs are laid, how many thousands of, well, not tadpoles in the case of the bushveld rain frog, they hatch as little froglets, but how many thousands of them are born and then devoured long before they get to anything like this size. So let's just hope that she managed to breed and lay eggs before she passed off into the void. Ribbit. Good. Okay, we're going to put her down in a reverent fashion. Goodbye, my dear. I'm not going to kiss you. I don't know how long you've been dead. And the ants will no doubt have at her fairly soon. So we're still on the Cheetah cut line. We still haven't reached Bivosok Dam yet because we keep finding amazing things like that rainbow shield bug. Thank you very much for the identification of that bug. I would like to show you now the most perfect genet track you'll ever see. Here we go. There's just sufficient moisture and just sufficient clay in the soil for this to be a perfect track. So there it is. And you can see it's perfectly formed. And what we have here is 1, 2, 3, 4 front pads and the little back pad here. And how do I know this is a genet and not an African wildcat? Well, I think the easiest way to say it's a genet is that it's not exploded. So these front tracks or front pads are very close to the back pad. On all the cats, these front pads and the back pad would just be slightly exploded from each other. But it's a very similar size to that of an African wildcat, which would look exactly like your average tabby's cat. Well, should you find your tabby walking along the beach, or perhaps in your garden, in your flower bed. So if you'd like to know the difference, I would suggest what you do is take your cat, put it outside, make it walk up and down in a flower bed, and you'll see that the track, in theory, should be more exploded than this little genet track. I mean, this is probably a large spotted genet. It's quite a big genet track. Marvellous. On we go. Now, I believe that Jamie has already reached Cape Town, and still she seeks the lions.
That is exactly what it feels like. I feel like in the time that it's taken to drive off-road towards the sighting, that I could give. And I'm hoping they're just ahead of us. But this has really truly been quite the epic journey. And yet where are these? Did I miss something? I must have missed something. I didn't see anyone. This is very confusing. Am I on the right road? Hold on a second. Let's pull up the map. No map. I cannot be here. Okay, so I've driven all the way to the Simbambili boundary. Right, let's try that again. Okay, we're going to have to duck through some low signal. I'll catch up with you shortly.
Well, there we go. Xongile is still got duck on the brain. I'd agree with you. Duck. I'm quite a fan of duck. Duck l'orange. No, actually, that's a bit 80s. But no, I'm a big fan of duck, and they are still there. I don't know. I still think they're too far for her. Maybe she spotted a terrapin. And now she could be hungry enough that she starts splashing in there trying to catch one of the little ones, because they can't fly yet. So no, they duck under the water is their escape route. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 babies, 2 adults, so 10 different duck l'oranges for a possible breakfast. Oh, there's more. Like that. 12. So there's one of the adults. The adult is almost putting itself between the babies, the other adult, and Xongile. Remember, if you want to ask us any questions about what's happening here, or with about leopards or white-faced ducks in general, you can do so by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Now, there we go. We can hear a chirr. They haven't quite left us yet. The woodlands kingfishers. I've been seeing quite a few of them around. VM said he spotted one now. There we go. Morning, woodlands. But it's unusual to have them calling at the moment. So there's one calling to the south of us. I'm just going to try and move forward a tiny skosh so you can see all the ducklings. You see them, Bim? There we go. All the ducks. Oopsie, there we go. So the ducklings are quite spread out. They're all around, but they are staying close to one of the adults. And with one adult making sure that it's closest to the leopard. So there we go, keeping a watchful eye on Xongile. Now, Jane is wondering how deep is this water in case Xongile decides to try and get hold of a duck in the water. Jane, it's probably just over my waist deep, so definitely deeper than Xongile. So probably 4 foot deep. Let's see, playing patience. And it's working because the little ducklings are starting to carry on feeding and move around, getting closer to the edge. But the adults are very watchful. We can hear some elephants breaking branches further to the west of us. There's actually been a parade of elephant bulls while we've been sitting here. We had that lovely one that we started off with the big curved tusks, and since then 4 others have walked, not close to us, but in the distance we've just seen them crossing the roads. Apparently there's elephants on the dam cam as well. So that's the adults that's between the babies and Xongile. Joe is wondering, why did the ducks just fly away? Well, the young ones are not big enough and not developed enough to fly away just yet. So that's why the adults are staying. Where did you come from, you brave little soul? That must be the George I was talking about, the naughty one. Oh, there's a lot of them. They are quite cute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, 9, 10. One of the adults just took off. Maybe going to check out if Twin Dams is worth a move to. Now, the Phantom would like to know, why are white-faced ducks monogamous? Well, certain bird species have, it's the best chance they have for raising young. So evolutionary, it makes sense for them to be monogamous. Actually, quite a lot of bird species are monogamous, and Egyptian geese, and a lot of the aquatic fowl that don't occur in flocks, yellow-billed ducks, African black ducks, white-faced ducks, knob-billed ducks, will pair off, but they're not monogamous. And during certain times of the year, outside of the breeding season, you find massive flocks of them around waterholes. I mean, I've seen probably 400 to 500 knob-billed ducks on a waterhole near my parents' house. So it all just depends. So evolutionary, it makes more sense for them because they are quite small, and they do migrate and move quite a bit, but they tend to pair off. And I'm not sure if they, I need to double check that. I'm not sure if they're completely monogamous. I think they just pair off during the breeding season. But it sounds like Jamie's intense, epic, and long journey to the Nkahumas is over.